Okay, I was gonna segue into the situation in Massachusetts, and I forget which district it is. Is it second district or which out in Springfield, Massachusetts, and Holyoke and Northampton?
Hmm.
Anyways, we have an incumbent there, Richie Neal, who is pretty much as corporate and corrupt as they come, who's been there for uh, quite a few terms. And his challenger is Alex Morse, who is young, um, gay,
Oh,
progressive
right.
um, person who seems really good. Now, recently, a story came out that Alex Morris had been he was on the faculty at I think it was UMass Amherst. I may be wrong on that, but he was on the faculty of a school and was supposedly harassing students, to go on dates on Tinder or Grinder or whatever. And it turns out that this was not the case. This was a smear job that was instigated by the one of the heads of the Amherst University of Massachusetts Amherst student Democrats, who was looking to destroy Alex Morse's challenge to Richie Neal, and thus getting a position with Richie Neal and helping Richie Neal get reelected, and thereby maybe helping himself to get a position with Richie Neal. Um, so this came out, and this was, I think, Ryan Grimm exposed this in The Intercept, and
Hmm.
it came out, and supposedly the Massachusetts Democratic Party was investigating this because obviously this was wrong. And now it turns out that the Massachusetts Democratic Party, who supposedly was going to be investigating this, was in on the whole thing all the time.
Oh
They
man.
were in on this smear job against Alex Morse and making up all the stuff about him, um, threatening and harassing, uh, students, basically kind of coercing them into having sex with him or going on dates with him or whatever, which was totally fabricated. And if you look at the actual exchanges, this was covered on the Hill. If you look at the exchanges, the text messages that Alex sent to some of these students, I mean, it's just totally innocuous. Like, oh,
Right.
it's a nice day today. What are you doing tonight? Blah blah blah. It was not. There was not. That was what they referred to. That was the best they could come up with in terms of like harassment going on. So now Alex Morris has become the center of this last minute campaign. Although he's been trailing by 10 points behind Richie Neal. All of a sudden, I think Justice Democrats and other groups are coming out behind Alex Morris and figuring maybe he has a chance now because of this, the backlash to the story. And I think here's another case where Richie Neal is the, approved corporate Democrat, the Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi approved Democrat is being challenged by this upstart um, challenger I mean, Richie Neal is like, is pro-life. I mean, he's like almost a Republican, and Alex Morris is like for single payer for, basically for the progressive platform. So I think it's interesting that they're first of all resorting to these smear tactics. Number one, which shows that they're getting really desperate, and number two, that actually this Alex Morris may have a chance now to, considering how Cory Bush won in St. Louis, wasn't expected to win. Maybe Alex Morris has a chance in Massachusetts. So I thought that was interesting. You think Massachusetts too, as being one of the, more less corrupt states somehow. Although of course,
I
Whitey
don't.
Bulger, Billy Bulger, right? We had that
Yeah.
connection, but
Oh, we had
you know,
three speakers in a house in a row of the House in a row indicted, right?
yeah. So I guess we aren't really that good,
No, no.
anyways. But the thing is that actually there is this kind of upheaval going on. I think it's going on with outside of the party, also going on within the party, and I think it's interesting. I'm not actively, obviously, involved with that campaign, but I'm interested to see how that turns out because we're only 3 weeks away now from the primary.
Yeah, that's some nasty, evil stuff. you know, um, when people, make politics a religion, or when they've got these ulterior motives that are, profit driven, they're willing to go to great lengths to, get their guy in. And this fear of progressives of, killing the golden goose, I think is pretty real.
Well, I think the change,
These people in power.
the long-term change you're seeing now is that the electorate is more interested in policy than personalities, because they're starting to wake up to the fact that you have different personalities, you have the same fucking policy every time, and if you have to vote for the policy. And here's, Richie Neal is like the guy they know. He's the incumbent, so a lot of people are going to say, well, he's like head of the Ways and Means Committee. I mean, he's a senior, has a lot of power in Congress. We should reelect this guy because he represents us. He's going to bring home the bacon for the district, right? But other people are, starting to wake up and see, like, wait a second, this guy stands for, like, basically, pro-life and really conservative values, not what we want, not what the people want. So I think that's something that's a trend I see happening, that people are starting to vote on policy more than personality, which I think is a good thing.
I think it's interesting that the DNC went so hard against someone who is like so openly gay. Because I feel like it could almost be seen as they are going after him because he's gay, and because there has been such a struggle for so long for gay people as being seen as like a predator. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's not a very good look for the DNC to back something like this type of attack,
Yeah, I mean, if you've got somebody like Buttigieg who's willing to go along, right, who's willing to, steer completely clear of progressive policies and go along with corporate warmonger stuff, then it doesn't matter. But
well,
I
when you have
understand what you're
someone
saying.
like Buttigieg who is willing to sell his orientation, his sexual orientation, in order to just be part of the club, yes, then
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a horrible look, but I don't think they really. I think they see the dollars over. I don't think they're like homophobic. I don't think they. It just doesn't matter. To the same extent that supporting the existing power structure.
I think a lot of them are homophobic
matters.
And racist. I think they use the identity politics for what they can get out of it. But when push comes to shove, they're not going to let any of that get in their way, and they're going to use it as a weapon if they have to. And I think, like, Massachusetts, the Massachusetts Democratic Party, like that establishment, is threatened because they could lose that power in Congress. If Richie Neal loses his position, loses a position on the committee, then they potentially lose power for Massachusetts. So they can justify whatever attacks whatever we have to do. At the end justifies the means. So we can attack, we can attack him on being gay or whatever, and we'll do it in a clandestine way that, that we're not the ones attacking. It'll be it'll be done in a way that it just gets out there, that people can see this, and that this guy's some kind of like, predator or whatever. Don't vote for this guy. We'll just smear him, but it won't be clear that we're doing the smearing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a very dangerous mode of attack, I think, because just like everything with the Democratic Party, it's going to end up coming back in their face, like it's going to end up biting them in their butt. And it's interesting because isn't Morse, Alex Morse, isn't he like the mayor of
Holyoke?
Yeah, of Holyoke.
Oh, no kidding.
And apparently he's pretty popular because he's been serving for quite some time now, since he was like, what, 22 or something like that?
Yeah, it's one of the youngest mayors.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy to have someone so young, representing, a place here, especially in Massachusetts, where it feels like it's pretty much just the old blood is who rules here, So I think, but again, it goes to show you how the Democrats, they have no interest in either young voters or, people that are informed voters, because obviously if he's been serving, if he's like an active member in his community, then he's most likely pretty popular. He has a good, following of, and I think that's what's actually helped him, is the fact that he has so much support, right?
Right.
And so imagine if they'll do that to somebody who has so much support, imagine what they would do to somebody who didn't.
Yeah, what a terrible spot to put a campaign in like that. They have to communicate to people who are, most of them are barely following this stuff, or they see a flyer or two or whatever. What you've been hearing from my opponents and the Massachusetts Democratic Party has been lies. This is the truth. It's such a weird story to have to tell and have people understand. You know, when you're just trying to campaign and tell people what you want to do for them, that it's just really horrific to put them in that position.
And then you're a conspiracy theorist because you think they're out to get
you. Think the Democratic Party would possibly do, not my Democratic Party wouldn't do that.
And it does have to highlight that Richie Neal, he can't have any sort of policies that he's actually running off of that are, you know, good policies. Because if that were the case, then they wouldn't turn to like these ad hominem attacks, or, you know what I'm saying, making it personal and making it, you know, like this little, like almost like a schoolyard fight, you know, instead of politics having to do with, you know, actually representing the people of that district and doing their job, right?
I mean, for most people, what is their congressperson is what? Somebody call up like, I'm going to Washington. I want to get a pass to visit, to tour the White House or something. I mean, most people, they don't really have an interaction with their congressperson. It's just like, that's the personality. And if they, you know, they get to see him on TV, maybe they get to meet him, you know, in person a couple of times, whatever. It's been basically a beauty contest all along, and now I think things are changing because, you know, there's this little thing in the background called reality, and reality is getting worse and worse and worse. The problems are getting worse and worse and worse, and I think so. People are starting to say, wait, you know, we have to start dealing with these problems. We have to have politicians who are actually going to address real issues, you know, and not just be a personality. And that's, you know, and like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, like, what are their, you know, Nancy Pelosi is all about the children, right? But what's the real issue? It's not about Medicare for all, you know, or it's not about ending the wars, right? It's not about universal basic income. And also, I just saw the other day, I forget the source, but universal basic income.
It's about Russia. It's about
very
keeping
popular. It's all about Russia, right? Right. But I mean, people are waking up to this thing, like, come on. I mean, you know,
are they though? Are they really?
Well, I'm just saying, like, it starts out with, you get a critical mass. So, you know, if you get 5% of people that are, you know, I hate that term woke, but, you know, people who are aware and informed, and then it can grow from there. So it's like, you know, you just work in getting that 5 or 10% aware, and that's not going to win elections yet, but that's the beginning of the process. You know, because they aren't solving the problem.